Let me ask you something. If I followed you around for the next 24 hours and wrote down every single thing you say to yourself in your own head, would you be proud of it or would you be embarrassed? Because here's the truth. Most people don't need an enemy in life. They've already got one living inside their head. They beat themselves up. They replay their failures. They convince themselves they're not good enough before they even get started. Then they wonder why they feel stuck, why they can't break through, why they don't feel that fire anymore. But I want you to imagine something right now. What if for just 5 days you change that inner conversation? If instead of tearing yourself down, you built yourself up? What if you started talking to yourself the way you talk to someone you love, someone you want to see win, someone whose potential you believe in with all your heart? I'm telling you, if you do this, if you commit for just 5 days to speak a new language to yourself, you will feel a shift in your energy, in your confidence, in your belief. You will notice doors opening that you never saw before because your brain finally gets the message, I am ready. I am capable. I am unstoppable. Stay with me until the end of this speech, because over the next few minutes, I'm going to give you 6 powerful keys that will completely transform how you talk to yourself. And when you change how you talk to yourself, you change your life forever. The words you use when you speak to yourself are not just sounds. They are commands. They are codes you're programming into your nervous system. And every single time you repeat them, you're telling your mind, your body, and your emotions exactly how to show up in the world. Think about it. Your entire life is being filtered through the meaning you give it. And that meaning is shaped by your inner language. If you wake up in the morning and the first thing you tell yourself is, I'm so tired, I don't feel like doing this today, your brain immediately looks for evidence to prove that true. You feel sluggish, you drag your feet, you carry yourself in a way that reflects defeat. But if you wake up and declare, today I'm alive, today I've got energy, today I choose to win, your physiology changes in that moment. Your shoulders rise, your breath deepens, your heart beats faster with purpose. Your language shifts your state, and your state shapes your destiny. Most people never realize that their inner voice is the greatest influence in their life. They blame circumstances, other people, or bad luck. But what really holds them back is the constant whisper in their head that tells them, you can't, you're not ready, you're not enough. And here's the scary part. You start to believe it, not because it's true, but because repetition is powerful. Say something to yourself enough times, and your brain doesn't argue with you. It just accepts it as fact. You literally hypnotize yourself into limitations. You don't need anyone else to stop you because you've already stopped yourself internally. Now imagine if you flip that script. Imagine if for just 5 days, every time that little voice tried to tell you you're not capable, you interrupted it and replaced it with something powerful. Instead of, I can't do this, you say, I'm built for this. Instead of, I'm too tired, you say, energy is unlimited when I focus on what matters. Instead of, I always fail, you say, I'm learning, I'm growing, and every step is progress. Do you feel the difference? Words are not just descriptions, they're blueprints. They're signals to your brain to create that reality. When you start commanding yourself with empowering language, your entire nervous system gets on board. Here's the fascinating thing. Your brain doesn't know the difference between something you repeatedly affirm with certainty and something that's just happening in the outside world. If you tell yourself often enough that you're confident, your brain wires itself as if you already are. If you say to yourself with intensity, I'm disciplined, I'm focused, I'm unstoppable, your body begins to match that command. Think about athletes before a big game. They don't sit in the locker room saying, oh man, I hope I don't mess this up. No, they psych themselves up. They repeat empowering mantras. They visualize success because they understand that their inner language creates their performance. And it's not just athletes, it's anyone who succeeds in any field. They speak differently to themselves. They direct their inner voice with precision. Treat their self-talk like fuel, not poison. The challenge is, most people never even question the words they use. They've been running the same negative patterns for years, maybe decades, and they wonder why life feels heavy, why they're stuck in the same cycles. The truth is, you can't create a life of power with the language of weakness. You can't build confidence with the words of doubt. If you want to change your life, you must first change the vocabulary you use with yourself. Think of it like this. Your inner language is the thermostat of your life. If your self-talk is set on low, you can achieve something temporarily. You'll always find yourself coming back down to that lower setting. You'll sabotage your success because it doesn't match the identity your words have reinforced. But if you raise that thermostat by raising your inner language, suddenly your default is higher. You don't just get moments of energy or flashes of confidence, you begin living in that state consistently. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but what if I don't believe it yet? What if I say, I'm confident, strong, I'm powerful, and deep down I feel like I'm lying to myself? That's the beauty of this. You're not lying, you're leading your mind, you're leading your emotions, and over time, feelings will catch up to your words. Belief doesn't come before action, it comes because of action. You don't wait until you feel confident to speak like a confident person, you speak like a confident person. That's how confidence grows inside of you. For just 5 days, I want you to commit to becoming hyper aware of your inner language. Catch yourself in the act of using weak words. You hear, I can't, immediately replace it with, I will find a way. When you hear, I'm not good enough, replace it with, I'm improving every day, I'm capable of extraordinary things. And don't just say it softly, say it with emotion, with intensity, because that's what wires it into your nervous system. Flat words don't change lives, passionate words do. You'll be amazed at how quickly things shift. By day 1, you'll notice a spark. By day 3, your energy feels different. By day 5, you start to wonder, would I ever go back to that old way of talking to myself? And that's when you realize something profound. The quality of your life has always been tied to the quality of your inner conversation. It wasn't fate, it wasn't luck, it wasn't other people holding you back. It was the language you allowed to dominate your mind. So from this moment forward, treat your words like the most powerful tool you own, because they are. You can use them to destroy your potential. You can use them to unleash it. You can let them keep you small, or you can let them expand you into the person you were born to be. The choice is yours. And the moment you choose to upgrade that inner language, everything else begins to rise with it. That's why if you talk to yourself like this for just 5 days, you'll realize the truth. You were never lacking the ability. You were only lacking the right words to unlock it. Let's be real for a moment. If you spoke to your best friend the way you speak to yourself in your own head, would they still be your best friend? Probably not. In fact, they might not even want to be around you. That's how brutal most people are with their own self-talk. They call themselves stupid, lazy, not good enough. They replay every mistake like a broken record, punishing themselves long after the moment has passed. And the saddest part, they don't even notice it anymore. It's just become the background noise of their life. That voice, that relentless critic, is like a virus in your mind. It spreads into everything. It steals your energy. It robs your courage. It convinces you not to try, not to take risks, not to step into who you're meant to be. And you wonder why you hesitate, why you procrastinate, why you feel drained even when nothing big has happened. It's because you're carrying around the weight of a voice that never gives you a break. The truth is, negative self-talk is not just a bad habit. It's a pattern of conditioning. Somewhere along the way, you picked it up. Maybe it was a parent who was hard on you. Maybe it was a teacher who told you you'd never measure up. Maybe it was friends or society that labeled you, judged you, made you feel small. And without realizing it, you took their voices and made them your own. You internalized them. But here's the wake call. Just because you believed it doesn't mean it was true. Just because that voice feels familiar doesn't mean it's yours. Now imagine this. What would happen if for just 5 days you shut down that destructive voice? What if you refused to let it have the last word? If every time it came up with, you can't, you laughed and replaced it with, watch me. Every time it whispered, you're not enough. You shouted back, I am more than enough. That might sound simple. It's one of the most radical acts of power you can ever take, because you're breaking a cycle that's probably been running for years, maybe decades. Think about it. How many opportunities have you lost because you let that negative inner voice run the show? How many times did you not raise your hand, not take the leap, not start that project, not ask for that chance because you were too busy arguing with yourself in your own head? That voice cost you more than rejection ever did. And the crazy part is, most people are more afraid of failing in their own minds than they are of failing in the real world. Here's what I want you to see. When you silence that destructive pattern, even for a few days, you start to experience a freedom most people will never taste. Suddenly, you have energy you didn't know you had. You start hearing yourself say things like, I can do this. I'm worthy. I'm strong. And your body responds. Your shoulders open up, your breathing deepens, your eyes brighten. You start to feel unstoppable, not because the world changed, but because your inner conversation did. This is not about pretending everything is perfect. This is about no longer being the enemy inside your own head. Because let's face it, life will throw challenges at you. People will criticize you. Circumstances will test you. But if you're also tearing yourself down from the inside, you've already lost before you even stepped onto the battlefield. On the other hand, if you've got your own back, if your inner voice is your ally instead of your executioner, you can take on anything. And here's the powerful part. It only takes a few days of intentional practice to start rewiring this pattern. For 5 days, I want you to commit to one rule. You don't allow destructive self-talk to live rent free in your mind. When you catch yourself calling yourself stupid, stop immediately and replace it with something empowering like, I'm learning. When you feel yourself saying, I'll never get this right, stop and say, I'm getting better every time. When you start hearing, I'm not worthy, replace it with, I deserve to live fully, I deserve to thrive. The key is not just to replace the words, but to do it with energy, with passion, with intensity. Because if you just whisper it without belief, your old voice will drown it out. But if you declare it like you mean it, your nervous system starts to take it seriously. You are literally teaching your mind who's in charge. Here's what's going to happen when you do this. The first day, you'll notice how loud that negative voice actually is. It'll shock you when you start paying attention. But by day 2 or 3, you'll catch it faster. By day 4, you'll start to feel stronger, lighter, more in control. And by day 5, you'll notice something incredible. You don't hear that critic as much anymore. You hear a new voice, a stronger one, a supportive one, the voice of who you really are. Once you taste that, you'll never want to go back, because here's the truth. You can't live an extraordinary life with ordinary self-talk. You can't create breakthroughs when you're constantly breaking yourself down. Words you feed yourself every single day are either poison or fuel. And if you're tired of feeling stuck, if you're tired of feeling small, if you're tired of holding yourself back, then for 5 days, feed yourself fuel. Refuse the poison. Stand guard at the door of your mind like your life depends on it, because it does. And when you do, you'll realize something profound. You were never lacking courage. You were never lacking discipline. You were never lacking strength. You were just buried under the weight of your own negative self-talk. Remove that weight, and suddenly the person you were meant to be rises up. The leader in you shows up. The warrior in you wakes up. And that's the person the world has been waiting for. So break the cycle for just 5 days. Stop being your own worst enemy and become your own greatest ally. Because the moment you do, everything in your life begins to shift. Every single one of us lives according to the identity we believe is true about ourselves. That identity is like the invisible script running the show of your life. If you see yourself as someone who's always struggling, you'll find ways to struggle even when opportunities are in front of you. If you see yourself as someone who can't stick to anything, you'll keep quitting even when you're capable of finishing. If you see yourself as someone who is strong, disciplined, resourceful, and unstoppable, your choices, your actions, and even your emotions will rise to meet that picture. Your identity shapes everything. Now, here's where most people get it wrong. They think identity is fixed. They think it's something they're born with, like eye color or height. They say, that's just who I am. I've always been this way, but identity isn't permanent. It's programmable. The way you program it is through the words you say to yourself. Every affirmation, every inner dialogue, every statement you repeat about who you are is like pouring concrete for that identity. The more you say it, the stronger it becomes. Think about it. When someone says, I'm not disciplined, they're not describing a fact, they're reinforcing an identity, they're telling their nervous system, this is who I am, and the body and brain simply obey. The same goes for, I'm shy, I'm lazy, I'm not a morning person. Those aren't truths, those are affirmations. And every time you repeat them, you're chiseling them deeper into your identity. No wonder change feels impossible. How can you create new results while holding on to an old identity? But here's the breakthrough. If identity is built, then identity can be rebuilt. If you can affirm yourself into weakness, you can affirm yourself into strength. If you can talk yourself into being small, you can talk yourself into being powerful. The key is to speak to yourself not as the person you've been, but as the person you're becoming. That's how identity shifts. You start planting the language of your future self in the soil of today, and soon that seed grows into a new reality. Imagine this. Let's say you've struggled with consistency in the past. Instead of repeating, I can never stick to anything, you begin saying, I am consistent. I follow through. I finish what I start. At first, it might feel strange, like you're lying to yourself. But remember, you've been lying to yourself the other way for years, telling yourself you're inconsistent, and you believe that. Why not flip the lie in your favor until it becomes the truth? Over time, as you repeat this new affirmation with emotion and conviction, your brain starts to accept it. Your actions begin to line up with it. And little by little, you're no longer trying to be consistent. You are consistent because your identity has shifted. This is why I keep saying your words are not just sounds, they're instructions. They're not just affirmations, they're orders to your nervous system. When you speak to yourself as the person you want to be, your subconscious mind gets the message and it starts filtering your thoughts, emotions, behaviors through that new identity. You literally begin living up to the words you declare. Let me give you a picture. Imagine two people trying to quit smoking. One says, I'm trying to quit. The other says, I don't smoke. The first one is fighting against their identity. They still see themselves as a smoker, just one who's trying not to smoke. The second person is living from a new identity. They're no longer a smoker. So saying no is not a struggle. It's simply alignment. That's the difference identity makes. It's the difference between forcing yourself and flowing into who you already believe you are. For the next 5 days, you just speak to yourself as if you're already the person you want to become. If you want to be confident, you say, I am confident, I walk tall, I speak with power. If you want to be disciplined, you say, I am disciplined, I do what needs to be done no matter how I feel. If you want to be courageous, you say, I am courageous, I face fear, and I move forward anyway. Don't wait until you feel it to say it until you feel it. At first, your old identity might push back. That inner voice might say, oh, are you kidding? You've failed before. You've tried this already. That's normal. That's just your old conditioning trying to survive. But if you persist, if you keep feeding your mind the new language, you'll notice something powerful happen. You'll start catching yourself acting differently. You'll begin to notice choices that align with your new identity. You'll stand a little taller, speak a little clearer, move with more certainty. And one day you'll realize you're not just saying the words anymore. You are the words. The identity has shifted. This is not about fake positivity. This is about aligning your words with your vision. It's about refusing to let your past define you and instead using your language to define your future. Because let's face it, you can't build a new life with the vocabulary of the old one. You can't create a champion's life while telling yourself you're a failure. The words must change first because the identity always follows the language. And here's the beautiful thing. Once your identity shifts, everything else becomes easier. Habits that used to feel impossible now feel natural because they match who you are. Confidence that once felt forced becomes second nature because it matches your identity. Discipline stops being a chore and becomes a way of life because you're not fighting against yourself anymore. You're living in alignment. That's why identity work is so powerful. It's not about changing what you do. It's about changing who you believe you are. And when that shifts, doing takes care of itself. So for just 5 days, talk to yourself like the person you want to be. Repeat it until it becomes normal. Live in the language of your future self until it feels like your present reality. Because once you claim a new identity with your words, your life has no choice but to rise and meet it. Every single emotion you've ever felt in your life has been created by what you choose to focus on and the words you attach to that focus. If you think about a time you failed, if you replay it over and over and attach words like, I'm such an idiot, I never get it right, you're going to feel shame, frustration, even hopelessness. If you think about the exact same situation and you say, that was a lesson, that was a stepping stone, that was me growing stronger, suddenly the emotion changes. Nothing about the event changed. What changed was the language you gave it, the focus you brought to it. Most people don't realize how quickly their emotions can shift because they've been living on autopilot, letting their words and focus dictate their state without even noticing. They wake up and tell themselves, I'm exhausted. Today's going to be tough. I hate my job. I hate the way I look. And guess what? Their body believes them. Their shoulders slump, their energy drops, and their day becomes exactly what they declared it would be. They're not victims of the day. They're victims of their own focus and language. But here's the power you have the second you change what you focus on and the words you attach to it, your emotional state changes instantly. Right now, if you close your eyes and think of something you're deeply grateful for, and you start saying to yourself, I'm blessed, I'm grateful, I'm alive, your body changes, your heart feels lighter, your energy rises. If you focus on something exciting and declare, I'm unstoppable, I've got this, nothing can stop me, you feel the adrenaline pumping through you right now. You don't have to wait for your life to change to feel different. Your language and focus can change your state in seconds. This is why some people walk into a room and immediately bring the energy up. They've trained their focus. They've trained their language. They don't say, I'm nervous. They say, I'm excited. They don't say, I can't handle this. They say, this is my moment. And because they choose those words, their physiology follows. Their body fills with confidence, their voice projects certainty, and everyone around them feels it. Think about how often you've sabotaged yourself by using weak language. How many times have you said, I'm stressed? When in reality, just challenged. How many times did you say, I'm terrified, when you were really just uncertain about what was coming? The words you choose magnify the emotion. If you say you're overwhelmed, your nervous system floods with stress hormones. But if you say, I'm a little stretched, but I can handle this, suddenly your brain looks for solutions instead of spiraling into panic. This is the secret high performers know. They don't let their emotions run wild. They direct them with language and focus. They feed themselves words that generate the emotions they need to perform at their best. If they need courage, they say, fearless. If they need resilience, they say, nothing can break me. If they need certainty, they say, I know I've got what it takes. And because they command their emotions through language, they walk into situations that would paralyze most people and they thrive. For the next 5 days, I want you to experiment with this. Every time you notice yourself sinking into a negative state, try to escape it by ignoring it, interrupt it with new language. If you feel tired, don't say, I'm exhausted. Say, I've got energy for what matters most. If you feel nervous, don't say, I'm scared. Say, I'm excited. If you feel hopeless, don't say, I can't. Say, I will. It might feel unnatural at first, but watch what happens to your emotions when you shift the language. Your body can't help but respond. It's not just about words, it's about the way you say them. If you mumble, I'm confident, while your head is down and your shoulders are slouched, your nervous system won't believe you. But if you stand tall, raise your voice, energy into it, and say, I am confident, I am ready, this is my time, your physiology changes immediately. You can feel it. That's because emotion follows motion. When your body and your language line up, your emotional state becomes unstoppable. Some people wait for a big event to feel alive. They think they need to achieve the goal, get the relationship, make the money before they can feel joy, gratitude, or excitement. Here's the truth. You can feel all of it now by changing your language and focus. You don't have to wait for life to give you permission to feel powerful. You already have the switch inside of you. It's the words you choose and the focus you direct. You want to know why people stay stuck? Because they keep rehearsing the same emotions over and over by focusing on what's wrong and feeding it with destructive words. They've trained themselves to live in stress, fear, doubt, frustration, and then they wonder why they can't seem to break free. But when you flip the pattern, when you start rehearsing gratitude, power, courage, certainty every day, you wire those emotions into your nervous system until they become your default. You literally condition yourself into a new emotional home. That's why these 5 days are so powerful. You're not just changing words, you're changing your focus, you're changing your state, you're changing the emotions that drive your entire life. Imagine what happens when instead of living in fear, you live in excitement. Instead of living in doubt, you live in certainty. Instead of living in stress, you live in gratitude. Do you think that would change how you show up? Do you think that would change your decisions, your relationships, your results? Of course it would. So don't underestimate this. Dismiss it as something small. The way you speak to yourself and the way you direct your focus is the master key to your emotions. And your emotions are the fuel for every action you take. Change the fuel. And you change the drive. Change the drive. You change the direction. Change the direction and you change your life. For the next 5 days, refuse to let negative language dominate your focus. Choose words of power, words of courage, words of gratitude. And when you do, watch your emotions rise to meet the level of your language. Because once you master the art of directing your focus and language, you'll realize you never had to wait for circumstances to give you permission to feel alive. You could generate that power anytime you wanted. Repetition is the mother of all skill, and it's also the mother of belief. The reason most people believe in their limitations so strongly isn't because they're true. It's because they've repeated them thousands of times. Think about it, you tell yourself every day, I'm not good enough. And over time it becomes reality, not because it was ever real, but because you rehearsed it into your nervous system until it felt unshakable. That's the danger of repetition. Here's the beauty, you can use the exact same process to build power, confidence, discipline, and courage. You can literally rewire your brain by what you choose to repeat. Neuroscience has proven something fascinating. Your brain is constantly rewiring itself based on what you feed it. Every thought you think, every word you repeat strengthens a pathway in your brain. The more you use that pathway, the stronger it gets. So when you say to yourself, I can't do this, over and over, you're not just saying words, you're carving a groove in your brain, a neural superhighway that makes that belief automatic. But when you consistently repeat, I am strong, I am capable, I always find a way, you're building a new pathway, and with enough repetition, that new pathway becomes your default. It's like walking through tall grass. The first time you push through, it's difficult, the grass is thick, it scratches you, it feels uncomfortable. But if you keep walking that same path every day, the grass bends, the dirt hardens, and soon you've created a trail. Eventually, it becomes the obvious way forward. That's exactly what repetition does to your beliefs. At first, it feels unnatural, but if you persist, you create a mental highway that makes empowering thoughts automatic. The problem is, most people repeat the wrong things. They rehearse their failures, they rehearse their doubts, they rehearse their fears. They tell the same sad stories to themselves and to others until those stories become their identity. And then they wonder why nothing changes. Life isn't giving them the same results because of fate. It's giving them the same results because of repetition. The brain doesn't care if what you repeat is true or not. It just gets stronger at whatever you practice. That's why these 5 days are so important. For 5 days, you're not just going to notice your self-talk, you're going to deliberately rewire it. You're going to replace the destructive patterns with empowering ones. You're going to repeat them until they stick. And here's what's amazing, you don't need years for this. You'll start to feel the shift almost immediately. The more you repeat, the more your brain starts to accept it, the more natural it feels. Soon you're not forcing it anymore. It's who you are. Think about how you learned your name. When you were little, you didn't just know it, you were told it over and over until it became part of your identity. The same goes for walking, talking, reading, anything you've ever mastered. It came through repetition. And the same process that taught you your name can teach you to believe in your strength, your worth, your power. The repetition makes it real. Here's the key. You can't just repeat the words mindlessly. If you sit there and say, I'm confident, I'm confident, I'm confident, in a flat voice with no energy, your brain won't believe it. But if you put your body into it, if you stand tall, breathe deeply, speak with power, and repeat it with intensity, your nervous system gets the message. Passion is what wires it in. Emotion is the glue that locks belief into place. That's why repetition works best when it's charged with feeling. For the next 5 days, I want you to pick the words that represent the identity you're building, and I want you to repeat them every single day, multiple times a day with passion. Say them in the morning the moment you wake up. Say them when you feel doubt creeping in. Say them before you go to bed. The more you repeat them, the deeper the groove becomes. Soon it won't just be words you're saying. It'll be the belief you live by. And here's what's going to happen. At first, your old beliefs will fight back. You'll hear that little voice saying, this isn't you. You've failed before. This is fake. That's just your old neural pathway trying to survive. But every time you repeat the new belief, you weaken the old one. It's like starving a weed and watering a flower. Eventually, the weed withers and the flower takes over. When that flower blooms, when that new belief becomes natural, your entire life begins to look different because you're no longer acting from the old story. You're living from the new one. This is why successful people in every field use affirmations, mantras, rituals of language. They know the brain learns through repetition. They know belief is not magic, it's conditioning. They know if they tell themselves they're winners every single day, eventually their brain accepts it and their actions follow. It's not luck, it's training. And if you train your brain with repetition, You can program yourself for greatness just as easily as you once programmed yourself for fear. So for 5 days, take control of what you repeat. Choose words that lift you, empower you, push you to rise higher. Don't just say them once and forget them. Drill them into your mind until they feel unshakable. Because every time you repeat them, you're building the foundation of a new identity. You're carving the trail that will soon become your natural path. Here's the beauty: once repetition locks it in, you don't have to think about it anymore. Just like you don't think about how to walk or how to tie your shoes, you won't have to think about believing in yourself. It'll just be there, automatic, natural, effortless. That's the power of repetition. So commit to it. For 5 days, feed your brain with empowering language again and again until it sticks. Because once you've repeated it enough, you won't just say the words, you'll become the words. 5 days might sound small, it might sound insignificant compared to the weight of a lifetime of habits, thoughts, and patterns. But the truth is, it's the small shifts that create the biggest transformations. People wait for some massive earth-shaking event to change their life. But what actually changes a life are the little decisions, the daily choices, seemingly minor moments when you decide to do something different. 5 days of speaking differently to yourself may feel small, but it's the seed that can grow into a forest. Think about a plane taking off from Los Angeles. That plane is just 1 degree off in its course. It doesn't feel like much at first, but fly far enough, and instead of landing in New York, that plane ends up in Washington, D.C., hundreds of miles away. One small shift in direction, consistently applied, creates an entirely different destination. That's exactly what happens when you change your inner language. In the first day or two, it may feel tiny, like nothing's really happening. But if you stick with it, if you stay consistent, the trajectory of your entire life begins to shift. Most people underestimate what small, consistent action can do because they're addicted to the idea of instant results. They want to flip a switch and have everything transformed overnight. When it doesn't happen that fast, they give up and tell themselves it doesn't work. But the truth is the compound effect of small shifts is unstoppable. You may not see it in the first 5 minutes or even the first 5 days. Stay with it, and you'll see a level of growth and change you never thought possible. Here's the beauty of starting small. Your brain doesn't fight it as much. If I told you to change your entire life in one night, your nervous system would resist. If I say, for just 5 days, talk to yourself differently, your mind goes, I can do that. And once you taste the results, once you feel the shift in your energy, once you notice yourself walking with more certainty, speaking with more power, believing in yourself just a little more, you'll realize you don't want to stop. That's how a habit is born. That's how transformation begins. Because here's the truth. Confidence isn't built in one giant leap. It's built one brick at a time. Discipline isn't built by promising yourself perfection. It's built by showing up consistently, even in small ways. Self-belief doesn't come from one massive victory. It comes from a series of little wins stacked on top of each other until you can't deny your growth anymore. These 5 days are the spark. They're the first brick. They're the little wins that start building the foundation of a completely new you. Once you've done 5 days, you realize something important. You didn't need years of therapy. You didn't need a miracle. You didn't need to wait for circumstances to change. All you needed was the decision to speak to yourself differently. That realization is powerful because it proves to you that change is in your control. It shows you that your future doesn't depend on luck or other people. It depends on the words you choose right now. I want you to picture something. Imagine looking back 5 days from now. You've stopped calling yourself weak, lazy, unworthy. You've replaced it with strength, discipline, and worthiness. You've practiced it again and again, and now you notice yourself carrying a different energy. You look in the mirror and instead of criticizing, you affirm. You wake up and instead of dreading the day, you declare power into it. You face challenges and instead of saying, I can't, you say, I will. That's just 5 days. Now imagine 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years. Imagine the kind of person you'll become when the voice inside you becomes unstoppable. It all begins with a small decision, a decision to no longer tolerate the old voice that held you back, decision to upgrade your language, even if it feels awkward at first, a decision to stick with it long enough to feel the shift. Most people never make that decision because they underestimate the power of small changes. But the ones who do, the ones who commit, the ones who say, for 5 days I'm in, those are the ones who discover that small steps create massive breakthroughs. And here's the thing, you're not just doing this for 5 days. You're proving to yourself that you can. You're proving to yourself that you can interrupt old patterns. You're proving to yourself that you can build new ones. You're proving that change doesn't have to take forever. Once you prove that to yourself, you'll never look at your potential the same way again. You'll know that you can direct your focus, shift your emotions, and create a new identity whenever you choose. That's the kind of freedom most people never experience, but it's yours if you commit. So don't underestimate this. Don't tell yourself it's too small to matter, because life doesn't change all at once. It changes one decision at a time, shift at a time, one word at a time. And if you give yourself 5 days of new language, you'll unlock a momentum that can carry you into the life you've always wanted. Because once you experience the power of talking to yourself with strength, certainty, and belief, you'll realize you never want to go back to the old way again.